Welcome to another episode of Tarot by Ralph on Hermetic Temple Radio.
Bum, 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 bum. Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Welcome to Showbiz, mom. Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Gee, you're gonna have, girl, you're gonna have, you'll have lots of fun.
Hi, I'm Ralph, also known as Frater Ralph, and I'll be your host today on Tarot by Ralph. And that little bit of music was furnished courtesy of the Hollywood Drunks called Welcome to Showbiz. Cute little piece I like to use once in a while for an intro. And today on Tarot by Ralph, I'm going to be giving my interpretations of 5 of the scary cards of the tarot. And I think, actually, if you look at the Rider-Waite deck designed by Pamala Coleman Smith, these are probably 5 of the scariest cards in the Rider-Waite deck. There are a couple others that I think get honorable mention, but these 5 are the ones that, when they come up in a tarot reading, they can really get people's attention. Perhaps not scare the socks off of them, but definitely get a person's attention. And even when I'm doing tarot readings by phone, where the client cannot see the cards physically, I'm careful about how I describe the cards. I kind of try to think of alternative names for the cards to avoid putting a new client off or making the client think, oh my God, disaster's looming just around the corner, I need to crawl back into bed. And these 5 cards can have that effect. In a couple of minutes, we're going to get right into that. The format I'm going to follow for today is I will give my interpretation of one card, and then go ahead and play a little music. I've got some music picked out by Hunter and the Dirty Jacks, Sophia Marie, Mark Cook, Anton Cosmo, and Hunter and the Dirty Jacks again. So that pretty much covers it. And so that's what we're going to do. Just talk a little tarot, play a little song, and then repeat until we get through all 5 of these scary cards of the tarot. And I'm going to start off with the major arcana in this discussion of scary tarot cards. And the first one that comes up is the Death card. And for this broadcast, I am going to be operating using the Rider-Waite tarot deck designed by Sir Arthur Edward Waite. I think he was a sir. I'm not sure. I'd call him sir if I ever met him in real life. And it was painted by Pamela Coleman Smith, who usually doesn't get a whole lot of credit when it comes to the Rider-Waite deck. And some tarot readers I know like to call it the Pamela Coleman Smith deck, giving her just due. But that's the deck I'm going to be operating with, and in the Rider-Waite deck, we see a skeleton dressed in black armor, riding a white horse, and standing directly in his path is a man dressed up as a bishop. And the bishop is imploring death. Looks like he's praying, begging, imploring death to not come this way. And of course, death is flying a black flag. And think of, what does a black flag symbolize? Think of that TV series that I think is still on, a relatively new one called Black Flag, a pirate series. Pirates flew the black flag, and It's usually seen as being a harbinger of death, foreboding, destruction. And in this card, we see that the horse that death rides is literally trampling over the body of a dead person. And this is a scary card. I mean, it looks scary. But one thing that we overlook, and this is interesting, this gives us the alternative interpretation that many people miss. If you look about in the middle height of the card, not in the dead center middle, but to the right-hand side, about midway up the card, you will see a very small sun rising over a hill. And this can actually be interpreted in two ways. Is the sun rising or is the sun setting? And this gives us a clue that this card can be interpreted in two very different ways. And both interpretations are quite valid. There are some readers, and I follow this school, that describe the death card as the death and rebirth card. And that interpretation fits beautifully here, I believe. Anytime you lose something, okay, when you lose like your car keys, I'm not really talking about physical death here right now, I'm just talking about stuff that we do, losses that we experience, be they temporary or be they permanent, that can seem to be very painful. If you lose your car keys, okay, that's not as bad as losing your favorite pet or losing your spouse. But, I mean, it disempowers you. Where can you go if you don't have your car keys? Well, I guess just about any place within walking distance. Or you can call up a friend and say, hey, I lost my car keys. Can you take me to the store or something? Or take public transportation if you live in those areas where public transportation is available. But it limits you. It's disempowering. And it can be somewhat scary too. Like if somebody's having a medical emergency and they need to get to the doctor fast and you can't find your car keys and you're the only driver in the house, now that's getting scary. So a loss can be scary, it can be annoying, it can be disempowering. But you think about it in another way, a loss can actually empower you. Losing something can make way for something new to enter into your life. And here we see a common interpretation that really makes sense in this light. If you lose your job, okay. Now, in economic times like these, economic times, hell, that we've been in for actually the past 10 years or so, if you lose your job, immediately you're going to think, okay, where am I going to get another one? Especially if you're too young to retire, and especially if you feel that you're too young to retire but too old to start all over again. Oh, that's no laughing matter. But, I felt like I've been in this situation myself a few times. But yeah, you lose your job. A lot of people depend upon their job for their living. And it seems threatening. It seems scary. And it can be very scary. But then you begin to accept the loss. You clear your head. And immediately you start thinking of, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do next? And you begin to look at your other options. And oftentimes, people, after they lose their job, they will begin to look at other options that they previously dismissed as being, okay, just not really an attractive proposition, not really a profitable move. But when you're in a situation when you've lost the one job that you really thought was going to pay the bills, maybe not for the rest of your life, but perhaps until something better came along, then suddenly your eyes are open to new possibilities, and stuff that you would previously have discounted and dismissed can appear to be attractive and good options. So, in one regard, death or loss, in this case, which the card death can symbolize, a loss, losing something can actually make way for something better to come into your life. Once you've suffered the loss, mourned the loss, grieved the loss, and processed the loss, and then once you begin to get back on your feet and seeing things more clearly again, you can begin to see that, life goes on. We've suffered this loss, we've suffered this tragedy, but now I'm open to something new. I'm open to a new chapter of my life to unveil itself. So when we think of the death card, we shouldn't really think of it as death. I think we need to think of it as a combination card, death and rebirth. And sometimes the death card can have a very positive meaning. It's like, okay, a question about a career comes up. Things aren't looking too good at work. What's the energy? And sometimes the death card will come up in a question pertaining to career. And depending on the other cards in the spread surrounding the death card, a lot of times I'll look at the card and say, okay, you're going to have difficulties. This job may not end right away, but there are going to be difficulties. There are going to be some major transitions coming into play here. So keep your eyes open and be on your best game and do your best job and see with eyes wide open. And when the trouble starts, look at all your options, look at all your alternatives. Is there a way that you can creatively ride this storm out and prosper? Or does it look like maybe I ought to just set this career down, walk away from it, and go into a new line? Try something new. And so the death card, when it comes up in a reading, a lot of people think it means physical death. And that scares a lot of people. I was doing a reading just this morning, a personal reading, trying to find my cat. I have a black cat, a male black cat that's disappeared now for 2 days. And I think he's just off catting, but one of the cards that came up, and in the present position was death. And, sometimes, death card can be scary even to an experienced reader. But I could see from the surrounding cards that we weren't talking about physical death, but a change. And I think it's a change going on in the mind of my pet. He was very closely attached to his mother, and I didn't know it, but his mother, who is also a black cat, got locked in our guest bedroom for a day and a half. And I didn't think the walls around this place were that thick, but I couldn't hear her. And it's a room we rarely use. So it was only late at night that I discovered her. And she was ready for some food, some water. She made a few messes in that room, which I've cleaned up. But he and his mother are very closely attached. And I think what happened, in light of this tarot reading, is that he went off looking for his mother, not knowing that she was locked in the guest bedroom. And I think when he gets tired of looking, he'll come back home. But one example there of the death card, it wasn't speaking of physical death in that instance, but I believe it was definitely speaking to a perception of loss. Like the little cat saying, okay, where's my mother? Is she back at our old home? Is she up the road? Is she up the street? Is she playing in the gutter? Up in the trees, out in the woods? And I think that's what he's doing. He's out there looking. And when he gets tired, he'll come back and find Mama waiting for him. So, death, but not always physical death. A perception of death, a perception of loss, and of course the other side of that coin is rebirth, a new start, a new beginning. And that's the happy side of the death card. And we need to keep both sides in mind when we're doing tarot readings. I'm going to take a break and play Prometheus by Hunter and the Dirty Jacks, and then we'll proceed with the Devil card.
It's just been dark at night. Once the sun goes down, there's no more heat and no light. But the cold outside, it only chills through the bones. So I walk under the limb instead of sleeping alone. Off in the distance, my heart felt the glow upon the mountain of knowledge where it's forbidden to go. Side was this lady aflame. The moment I saw her, it was clear why I came. This is a daughter of Zeus. Yeah, those are clearly the odds. Now I got something in mind. I gotta steal from the gods. She moves with the flicker. She goes red, orange, and blue. And come with me, child. I'll light my whole world with you. Started brewing as we ran down the hill. It's gathering the darkness with a pissed off God's will. Now Zeus is at my heels, cause I defied divine plan. For the love of this woman, I brought fire to man. She said, what's your name? I said, there's much to discuss, but the humans below call me Prometheus.
Alright, Prometheus, the god of fire, the bringer of enlightenment to humanity, according to the old Greek myth. And doesn't really seem fitting, but we jump from Prometheus to the devil. Although some people might perceive Prometheus, or Lucifer is his Roman name, as the devil. Those of us in the occult world who know our symbolism know that that's a false comparison. But the devil card is definitely another of the scary cards in the tarot deck. Perhaps not in old tarot decks, but in the Rider-Waite deck it is. And when this card comes up in a spiritual reading for some people, for someone who's not really familiar with tarot symbology, it can be a scary situation again. And a lot of times in spiritual readings, we focus on growth areas, areas where the client needs to work. And sometimes when the devil card can come up, the client can think, oh my God, am I going to get my soul possessed by the devil again? you know, and perhaps not that severe, but, am I going to get possessed or repossessed? The questions come up like, am I on the wrong path? And sometimes the devil card can indicate, that you are on the wrong path. Some tarot authors that I love interpret the devil as the drugs, sex, and rock and roll card. And sometimes it's good to let your hair down, let loose, walk on the wild side, party. But when you're doing that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you fall out of balance. And at the same time, if you're working hard, nose to the grindstone, just, doing business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you may profit, and you may do quite well in the business world with that attitude, but you're also likely to burn out within a few years. Some people, they're so intense, they burn out within a few months. And in that way, in a positive way, you're out of balance. I see the devil card as being a card recommending that you find your balance. Are you too evil for your own good? Well, then you need to change that. The other side of the coin is, are you too good for your own good? There's such a thing as that too, And the devil card shows us the necessity for keeping things in balance. The devil card, at least in the Rider-Waite deck, seems to be kind of a dark and fiery card. But if you look carefully, you can also see signs of water in there. There's a female figure to the left-hand side, the left-hand side of the devil, and I mean the devil's left. And she has a tail, and the tail is sprouting what looks to be grapes. And it's a green tail. It looks like a vine that's growing as a tail. And this is a subtle indication of water, of life, of growth. The rest of the card seems to be focusing on the negative, on the devil's right-hand side. Excuse me, I've got my sides mixed up. The devil's left-hand side, the woman is on the devil's right, the man is on the devil's left. And he has a tail that is made out of pure fire. And the devil is touching a torch to the man's tail. So we have fire on top of fire. And so we have this indication, this symbology of a balance here between the passion of fire and the watery side of growth, love, nurturing, things like that. And what we see is, what can be seen here anyway, is a need for balance. And if you're too good for your own good, and this is a valid interpretation. If you're generous to a fault, you can literally work your way into the poorhouse just by being too good, just by being too generous. I've known some sweet little old ladies, little old men living on a fixed income, just maybe $1,000 a month in Social Security, if even that, who will every week write checks to their favorite television evangelist, or save the animals, or people for the ethical treatment of animals, whatever their favorite charity is. Some of them may be quite good charities, but they will be giving beyond their means to give, and they're just generous to a fault. And a lot of other people can be in that same boat, just wanting to help somebody, wanting to help someone they love, and just throwing money at the problem and not really solving the problem. And instead of solving the problem, they're creating new problems. In a situation like that, the devil card can be saying, look, it's time to toughen up. One of the things the devil card can symbolize is toughness, strength, a strong ego. And sometimes having a strong ego, it's not that bad of a deal. Normally, we tend to think of it in the negative. But, if you're a quiet, mild-mannered person, you never blow your own horn, you never brag about yourself, you never talk yourself up, after a few years with that attitude, you may find yourself overlooked for job advancement, overlooked in your community, overlooked in a lot of other areas. You may find yourself just going unnoticed because you're keeping your light, the gifts that you've been given by the universe, hidden under a basket of humility. And normally, I think of humility as being a good thing. But, as in all things, we have to strike a balance. You can be too humble for your own good, just like you can be too good for your own good. And sometimes you need to get out there and let people know, hey, this is what I'm capable of. I can do this, and this is my interest. These are my qualifications. Been in this dead-end job for 5 years. It's time for a move up. And just let your ego out, for nothing else, for a breath of fresh air, and talk yourself up. And of course, the opposite of that is equally bad. If you're all about ego, if you're driven about ego, if you just love yourself so much that you can't love anybody else, just completely narcissistic, then, you're really not going to advance very well with that attitude. I mean, you might, but a lot of people are going to hate you for it. And you just have to keep a balance, and that's again what I see the devil card here as being. Take your fiery side, take your watery side, and balance the two. And when you balance fire and water, you can get some pretty good steamy results. And you can get a lot of activity, a lot of positive action going on just steam power. And that's one thing to keep in mind with the devil card. It's not always about evil. And it's not always about good. It's about a balance. None of us are completely evil. None of us are completely good. Most of the people that I've met in this world are a mixture of the two. And in order to live well, in order to advance, in order to live a healthy, well-balanced life, we need to carefully cultivate the good, but also not ignore the evil in our lives. And sometimes, and we shouldn't reject the evil either. Sometimes, okay, you do need to get angry. Being angry is not always a bad thing. Sometimes you need to tell people how you feel. You need to be honest about your abilities. Being overly humble is not a good thing. Neither is being a doormat for other people. And there's a positive side to the stuff that we normally tend to think of as being negative. And so when the devil card comes up in a reading, we need to examine our attitudes. We need to take a good, healthy look at ourselves and just see, okay, what are you telling me here, Spirit? What is out of balance in my life? And sometimes when the devil card comes up in like a love and relationship type reading, a lot of times I'll kind of probe and I'll ask questions like, do you feel like you're being used as a doormat here? Do you put the needs of your lover, your husband, your wife, the other person, do you always put those needs ahead of your own? And are you feeling worn out because of that? And sometimes it can be an indication that you need to assert yourself more in this relationship. You need to let the other person know, hey, I love you, but I'm not your personal slave. I don't exist only to please you. I've got needs of my own. And you need to take those needs seriously. And just be open, be honest. Don't be mean and hurtful about it, but just be honest about it. And the devil can be an indication there that, okay, maybe it's time to take a stand on something, a strong, powerful stand. And if a person is on the other side of the coin, not passive at all, very dominant, very strong, very powerful, very fiery, then I'll ask the question, are you overdoing it a little bit? Do you have a softer side? Do you have a lovable, cuddly side? Have you ever let that side out for fresh air? Maybe it's time to explore that side of your personality in this relationship. And don't be the strong one. Be the soft, cuddly, watery type. Be the fluffy bunny for a change, rather than the roaring tiger. And find a balance between those two sides of your personality and your love life. So the devil, there's a lot more interpretations we can give, but it's not just about demonic possession, folks. It's about taking a strong look at your attitudes, your personality, and how you proceed in life. I'm going to take another break, play a song by Sophia Marie called The Devil's Wrath, and then we'll be back with The Tower.
To a devil's heart, her alley stole.
Okay, now from the devil and the devil's wrath, we go to the tower, which actually can also be seen as the devil's wrath. Some tarot decks call this the blasted tower. I think the Hermetic Tarot deck, another deck I love, even though it's just done in black and white with no color, that I think that's what they call it, the blasted tower. And that's what we see in the center of this card is a tower that looks to be like a gold crown, a gold top, kind of like the apex of classical apex of a pyramid. And it's being blasted. It's been hit by lightning. Almost, can't really tell. Some interpretations say that this is like a bolt from the blue sky. That interpretation doesn't really come out that clearly in the Rider-Waite deck. It looks more like a dark and stormy sky. But either way, I think that interpretation is valid. But either way, we have a bolt of lightning striking a tower built upon a mountain, and people are falling out of the tower. A man and a woman, and fire is raining down, and it just looks like a scene of death and destruction. And the tower card it's one of those cards that indicates transition, and it indicates a strong transition. Something major is going to happen. Something major is in the works. So be careful. And this is a scary card because of just the way it looks. It looks like death and destruction. And people, if you are sitting down doing a tarot reading or having a tarot reading done for you, and you get the Tower card in combination with the Devil card and the Death card, that's a pretty dark reading. It can be a pretty darn scary reading, and it's kind of hard to put a positive spin on that, actually. If that were to happen, or I'd say when that happens in a tarot reading, my advice is hang on to your seat, buckle up your seatbelt. You're in for kind of a rough ride of transition. But there is a positive side to the Death card. Transitions in life, like we've seen in the Death card, are not always negative. They can feel negative. One way I like to look at the Death card, the Tower card, and this is coming from a background of drug and alcohol addiction and rehabilitation, recovery, is that when a person gets into recovery from a drug addiction, from an alcohol addiction, whatever the addiction is, the idea of living without that drug or living without that drink or that addictive behavior, it can really scare the hell out of the addict. And I know that. I've felt it. I've been there. And it just seems like having that drug taken away from you is a major death-like experience. To normal people who have never suffered through addiction, this is going to sound like crazy talk. But for addicts out there, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. The idea of going without something that you've fallen in love with, loved dearly, perhaps love more than life itself, it's like a death. It's a major transition that you're not sure you really want to live with. But after you've gone through that period of loss, of mourning, after you've gone your first 30 days without that drug, then your eyes begin to open. You begin to see that, my life previously, under the command of drugs, alcohol, whatever the addiction was, under the command of my addiction, my life was miserable. I was in bondage. I was held captive by this addiction to this material substance. But then once I break free of that material substance, a new life opens up, and a real life is possible. And a lot of addicts, when they first go through, that loss, especially, the withdrawal from that drug of choice, life is miserable for them. And they don't see how it's going to get any better. And if they're going to AA meetings or 12-step meetings, the old timers will be saying, hey, keep coming back. It gets better. It gets better. It gets better. But in that first 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, sometimes the attitude of the beginner, the newcomer to sobriety, is just asking the question out loud, when is it going to get better? When is it going to get better? My life is crap right now. I want it to get better right now. I've been a good boy for 3 days. I want a major change right now. And it takes time. It takes time. It takes time to get beyond that addiction, to get beyond that physical addiction. And it takes even longer to get your head straightened out. But once you walk that path, once you get into recovery and give it, more than just a few days, give it a few months. Some people give it a few years. Things do turn around and a new life emerges. And that's something that the tower here can symbolize. Some tarot readers interpret the card as liberation from captivity or bondage to the material world. Here, the tower can be seen as symbolizing wealth, the material world, just all kinds of material things. Whatever your favorite thing in the material world is, whether it's money or power or sex or drugs or alcohol, the tower can symbolize that. And we're not always fully aware how enslaved we are to these material things. I had a wise old man once say to me, don't be so quick to say that this is a bad thing. And he was talking about alcohol, but he also could have been talking about money. And he said, as long as you control it, and it doesn't control you, you're fine. And I found that play out in my life in regards to alcohol. I got to the point where it controlled me. And my life was way out of balance. And I had to get back into balance and get control over it. And I did that by getting sober and staying sober. And now, through abstinence from alcohol, I have control over my previous addiction to alcohol. But the same thing can be said about a lot of people concerning money. Do you control your money? Or does your money control you? Are you a slave to money? One radio commentator, private, internet radio commentator I love, Mark Passio, says that money is a form of mind control. And, you can think about it. We place such a high value on money. And what is it? Pieces of paper with pictures of dead presidents, little round pieces of metal with images of dead presidents, and numbers, etched on them. Do they really have value? I mean, silver and gold, yeah, they have value, at least a commonly agreed monetary value. But think about it. How powerful is money in your life? And how much control do you give over to money in your life? And a lot of people are in the position where they are working a dead-end job, a job that they hate, a job that they would not be doing if it wasn't for the fact that somebody was giving them a weekly paycheck to do it. And when you're in a situation where you have a family to support, where you have bills to pay off, where you want to keep a roof over your head rather than be kicked out homeless onto the street, having that job is a good thing. But a lot of people remain stuck in dead-end jobs that they hate simply because they get the idea in their head that this is what I have to do in order to keep money coming into my life. And then they take the next mental step and they think, this is the only thing that I can do to keep money coming into my life. And, money is one of those things. It can be good. It can be bad. But when we're signing away large portions of our life, huge chunks of our life that we will never get back, not in this lifetime anyway. In reincarnations, yes. I do believe in reincarnation, and I do believe that with each rebirth there is something of a do-over involved. But in this life, we're signing away large chunks of our life in exchange for money that we'll never get back, and you have to look at that critically. Am I going to be spending my time doing a job that I hate in exchange for money? Or is it possible that I can spend my time doing a job that I love in exchange for money, perhaps even more money? And you have to begin thinking, okay, what is money? Well, it's wealth, yes. It's also power. It empowers you. If you're being given just enough money to survive, you can kind of think of yourself in the light of a crack cocaine addict. You do whatever you have to do to get that fix. And then after you get that fix, you're fine. But then once that fix wears off, you need more, you need more, you need more. And some people are working jobs where they are just given just enough to live on. Maybe not even that. And each payday, they get that check and they think, oh my God, I got it. This is what I need. This is what I need. I can pay some bills now. I might even be able to go out there and get some food. And, big thrill on payday. Hardly anybody gets sick on payday. But then after that, money's spent because, not enough paycheck to meet the bills. And the person is left hungry for that next fix. And sometimes we have to ask ourselves, have I placed myself in a position where I am being dominated by other people, where I am being paid just a mere pittance, just enough to live on, maybe just survive on, and I have become so dependent on this job that my life is no longer under my control. Even my way of thinking about my life is no longer under my control. I have signed over control to a corporation, to a boss, to somebody who may not even notice me in the street. And if that's the case, then you have to open your eyes and think of a job loss as being perhaps a positive thing. If you're unemployed for any length of time, I know, it's scary. And I don't recommend quitting your job until you have a better job in mind. I think a sound piece of advice here is that if you find yourself stuck in a dead-end job, then be prepared to work 80 hours a week. Put in at least a good 40 hours a week if possible, if your employer is even giving you that. But put in, a full 40 hours a week if possible doing the job that you hate. And then take another 40 hours a week to get out there and find the job that you're going to love. And then once you find it, grab it, accept it, give your notice to your other boss, if possible, and then move on. Don't just quit without having something better on your plate. Sometimes that's not always possible, but if you have a choice, I would recommend definitely never quit your job until you have another one, on your plate. But money can be seen as bondage to the material world. And money's not a bad thing. We work with money here. We are not, we don't take a vow of poverty. We're just careful. We've learned to spot, areas in which money has had control over me, and we're mindful about whether or not we have control over it. And when you have control over it, then you can use it for your own personal empowerment, your own personal liberation. But sometimes, in order to get that liberation, kind of like similar to the death card, you have to be prepared to let something go. And even in a dead-end job, even going to work and putting in time at a job that you hate, there are things that you grow attached to. There are people like your coworkers, sub-managers, other managers that you've developed friendships with. And if you've been at the same place for years, then you've allowed yourself to fall into certain mental habits where just letting that go can be painful. It can feel like a blasted tower experience. So even a change for the good can be perceived as being painful, can be perceived as a loss. And I think that's what the tower here is telling us. It's telling us to be prepared to let go. This letting go may be voluntary on your part. It may be involuntary on your part. Like your place of employment being sold to a company in China and all the jobs being moved overseas. Or it can be your house burning down. It could be the death of a loved one. It could be a loss that you have no control over. Or it could be a voluntary loss. Like it could be saying, hey, it's time to get up off the pot, so to speak, and go out there. You've been at this dead-end job for 5 years. It's time to get something better. Or you've been in a dead-end relationship for 5 or 10 years. Maybe it's time to move on. And that's what the Tower card might be telling you. Take a good hard look at your life. What do you need to let go of? And then once you've found that, prepare to break with it. And break with it as gracefully as you can. So again, the Tower card, it looks frightening. But you know what? It can have some very positive interpretations. It can be telling you it's time to let go of the bad in your life and prepare the way for something far better. Going to take another break, play Voodoo by Sophia Marie, and then we'll be back with the Nine of Swords card.
The mood is
Okay, now we move on from the Tower card to the Nine of Swords card. And this has been described by other interpreters as being the worry card or the nightmare card. And here we see a picture of can't really tell, I think it's a man, could be a woman, kind of, could go either way actually, sitting up in bed with his or her head in his or her hands. Looks like a person that is very worried late at night, can't sleep, perhaps crying, and 9 swords are just dangling over this person's head. And the suit of swords represents the world of thought. And here, this is where we get the interpretation that this represents worry. Bad thoughts, foreboding, just worrying about things that might be, or being worried about dangers that we know are just right around the corner, and just not being able to sleep at night, being up, worried, just no hope in sight. And it seems to be a card of just complete disempowerment. And it looks scary, and actually I think that interpretation I just gave it is very scary. Your back is against the wall, the firing squad is right there in front of you, there is no place to run. Blindfold, please. But is that the only interpretation that we can give to this card? And actually, I'm happy to say that's not the only interpretation we can give to this card. We can see a positive side to this card. When it comes to the tarot, every card has 2 sides, at least 2 different sides. Some people say there are actually 3 sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth. And that's nothing original. I got that from the rock group Extreme. But there are at least 2 sides to every story, definitely 3 sides to every story. And what's the truth in this matter? Does the 9 of Swords represent nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, no way I can sleep at night? Or is it offering us a choice? And sometimes when we examine our worries, we examine our fears, we find that we have painted ourselves into a corner. Sometimes we think that we are in worse shape than we actually are in. Or we're perceiving a tragedy, thinking that if this befalls me, that's the worst thing that can possibly happen. And then we go through that tragedy and we find out, no, that's not the worst thing that could possibly happen. I went through this, I made it through, I lived through it, and life goes on. And that's what the 9 of Swords here might be telling us in a reading. Might be telling us, okay, you are facing a difficult point in your life. You're so far down, you don't see the light of day, not yet. But the night does not last forever. This too shall pass. One of my favorite Bible verses, this too shall pass. You can work your way through this. One interpreter that I love, speaking about the 9 of Swords card, says, okay, you've got these 9 swords dangling over your head. Don't fret. Don't worry. Don't think that you are disempowered. Empower yourself. Reach up, grab one of those swords, and use it. And it could be a card saying that it's time to stop being the victim. Now, this is one possible interpretation among many that we can give to this card. Perhaps you are at a point in your life where you have painted yourself into a corner, where you have given over control of your life to someone or something else. And it's time to take responsibility for getting your life back on track. And it may be telling us that no matter how difficult it may seem to try to get back up and stand on your own 2 feet again, it's time to do it. It's time to reach up there, grab one of those swords, and maybe before you can even begin to fight with that sword, you can at least put it into the ground and use it as a crutch to bring yourself back up onto your feet again. And then once you get back up on your feet, it's time to move in a new direction. Get yourself out of danger. Get yourself out of fear, out of worry, and make room in your life for a better, brighter future. Some inspirational authors have said that pertaining to worrying about a problem that might be, not a problem that is, but just worrying about a problem that might be, is like paying interest on a debt that you may never owe. And that's the way it is with a lot of people. They're just worried about this and that and the other thing. The media right now is selling us a whole lot of fear. Anymore, I'm going to refer to the mainstream media as mental terrorists, because that, in fact, is one of the functions that they fulfill. They're selling us fear. We're half the media, well, actually most of the media, is telling us what a nightmare America is going to be if Donald Trump is elected president. And I'm not following television much anymore, and consequently I'm not being exposed to a lot of these political commercials, but we were watching it last night and I saw a commercial for Hillary Clinton. And the whole thing, it wasn't about my vision of the future. It wasn't about what I'm going to do. It wasn't about the Democratic Party's platform. It was all about Donald Trump and how he's unfit to be president and what a terrible leader he's going to be. And at the end, it was almost like, she didn't come out and say this, but it was almost like, vote for me because I'm not Donald Trump. And that's why I've given up on the Democratic Party and on the Republican Party. I am tired of being manipulated by fear. I want them to offer me something better. At least when Barack Obama was running, he gave us some hope. He didn't fulfill a lot of that hope, partially because one man cannot do the job alone. But at least he gave a message of hope. And that's what I want to see in my politics, in my life, in my pursuit of happiness. I don't need fear. Fear is in abundance. If you want fear, just turn on your TV set, sit down for half an hour. You'll probably get your quota. What I want is hope. And that's what I see in the Nine of Swords card. I've gotten a little bit off track here. But a need to get your head out of your hands. Stop worrying about things that may not even take place. Like there's no guarantee Donald Trump's going to be president. There's no guarantee that Hillary Clinton's going to be the next president. We may see a major upset and have a third-party candidate become president. I would love to see that. Preferably Jill Stein, but Gary Johnson, at least he'd be a breath of fresh air in the political debate. But yeah, you may be worried about stuff that might not even come to pass. And so, when the Nine of Swords card comes up in a reading, ask yourself the question, are my fears well-founded? Am I worrying about stuff that may never happen? And am I investing a lot of my mental energy in the form of fear and worry into something that I can't even control anyway? You know, like if a giant meteor is going to impact the earth and wipe out all life as we know it, and that meteor is coming in 2 weeks' time, and word leaks out in the media, and we all know it, what are you going to do? Are you going to spend the last 2 weeks of your life worried about the impending disaster that you can't stop? Or are you going to spend the last 2 weeks of your life loving the people that you're close to, enjoying the life that you have left, being kind to small animals, getting in touch with who you really are, and living that out to the fullest in the last 2 weeks of your life? I strongly suspect that most people of the world would be living in fear and worry and wasting away what little time they had left. It would be just a handful of people that would be strong enough to see beyond the fear, to see beyond the worry, and to live life to the fullest. One quote I love, that even if I knew the world was going to end tomorrow, I would still plant my tree. That's a quote attributed to Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer. I no longer agree with his theology, but I do agree with that saying of hope, that even if I knew that tomorrow the world would come to an end, I would still plant my tree. I would still do whatever I could to build hope for the future. Because my world may come to an end tomorrow, but the world of the tree, that may very well live on, and on, and on, and on. So when it comes to the Nine of Swords card, I think it's a good advice to confront your fears, check out, quite honestly, the things that are causing you worry, and then take inventory. Are these fears, worries that are actually going to come to pass? Are these things that might come to pass? Are these things that I can do something about? And are these things that are just totally out of my control? And then act and plan accordingly. And take another break. Play a song by Hunter and the Dirty Jacks called Kennel Howl. And then I'll be back with our final card, the Ten of Swords.
Run in the forest, I used to run in the street with this new kind of sadness. I can't even get on my feet. They used to read Jack London while I was on the prowl. Now I eat my meals from a can since I learned my kennel howl. Mama was part coyote. They say my papa was from hell. Take one step from my hunting grounds, and it's with thee they'll toll that bell. Running from me, staying dry in the rain, it's like escaping from your past. But you'll always come back when you're not strong enough. You know you're safe with me, child. warning signs that your darkness feels for you learn my kennel in this cage, moon in its full force. A war's last song, not for a throne, but to defend his dying horse. So take it, moon, take hold of me, my soul I'm beating down. One last breath, stand up, one high still, with my kennel.
Okay, this is Ralph back again, and my last card that I'm going to talk about is the Ten of Swords. And then after this, it just now occurred to me, wouldn't it be neat to take these 5 cards and read them as if they were coming up in a 5-card reading? Death, the Devil, the Tower, 9 of Swords, 10 of Swords. Never have I seen this combination come up like this in a 5-card reading. But what if it did? What if you got the 5 scariest cards in all of the tarot deck thrown at you in one 5-card reading? What kind of an interpretation could we give it? And actually, I thought, let's do that. But first, let's discuss the Ten of Swords. Ten of Swords looks like a negative card, looks like a dastardly little card. It shows a man lying dead on the ground. At least he should be dead. And he has 10 swords thrust throughout his body. One sword is thrust through his head, the other is thrust through his neck, the other is thrust between his shoulder blades, and the remaining swords are all thrust right on down his back. And so that's where I said, if he's not dead, by God, I hope he's dead, because he'd be in a world of pain otherwise. And that's what the Ten of Swords card represents. It represents it's finished. It's complete. It's over. The old cycle, whatever that old cycle has been, has come to an end. If that old cycle has been one of fear and suffering and poverty and just bad things, then the Ten of Swords card, as bad as it looks, is actually a good card to come up, because it's telling us that old cycle is now over. Your suffering will end. The old is passing away, and there's something new that's going to take its place. And if you've been in a world of suffering for any length of time, and you tend to think anything could be better than this, we hope for something better to come, to take the place of that old negative cycle. Now, of course, the reverse is also true. If you've been on a good roll, if you've been on a positive cycle, if everything's gone your way, the world is your oyster, you're rolling in wealth and happiness, and the Ten of Swords comes up, then it can be taken as not a threat, okay, but as a reminder that all things in this life are impermanent. All things change. We may want to hang on to the good things in life, but eventually all good things do come to an end. And ultimately, I think that's for the best. Because as painful as it might be to, I don't know, lose your condo, if you're in a position where you might be experiencing that, yeah, that can seem painful. But you know what? If you don't have enough money to keep your condo, but you still have enough money to buy a little shack in the woods, you might actually find that the transition from living in a high-priced condo and then going to a small shack in the woods, just that simple move, as humiliating as it might seem right now, that small move might be the best thing in your life. It might be your chance to get a new perspective on things, to get back to nature, to get back to the wild, to get back in touch with common people, not just the 1%, 2%, 3% that can afford a condo, and just get back in touch with the 95, 75% of humanity that just lives common life from one day to the next. It may be the universe's way of giving you a wake-up call, saying, hey, you've had it so good for so long, now let's look at the other side of the coin. And so even when the Ten of Swords card comes up as a negative card, we can see it in a positive light. Whatever interpretation we try to give it, the Ten of Swords card is a definite reminder that nothing in this world is permanent. Nothing should be taken for granted. If we apply it to the good things in life, then the teaching that we can take out of this might be cherish those things while they last, because they'll soon be gone. And if we apply the Ten of Swords card to the negative things in life, well, then we get a much happier interpretation. It's like, hey, you're suffering now, but this will pass. Something better might be in the making, especially if you're doing something positive to encourage something new, something good, and something better in your life. So the Ten of Swords card, it looks scary. And depending upon the surrounding cards, yes, it can be scary. If I don't recommend doing this for other people. Actually, it may not even be a good idea to do it for yourself, but if you're doing a reading pertaining to health, and you're not a doctor, and you don't know all the details of this person's medical history or your own medical history, you should be very, very careful about doing readings pertaining to health, life, death. But when the Ten of Swords comes up in a reading about health, or in a reading about death or afterlife, yeah, it can seem like a very, very scary card. But it does have a positive side. The positive side is, okay, this previous cycle has drawn to a close. Now, open your eyes and look for something new. Look for something better upon the horizon. And I just now noticed this as I was talking, but The Ten of Swords card, we see a black sky at the very top, and then black clouds beneath the black sky. But then as we descend down, we see what looks to be like a sky full of sunshine starting to break through the black clouds. And then you go beneath that, bright sky full of sunshine, and we see blue. The blue of the ocean, could be the blue of the mountaintops even. And then beneath that we see the figure of a dead man with 10 swords thrust throughout his body. And so most of the card seems to be negative, but there are some positive elements there. Positive element of a new sun rising, positive element of blue representing water, love, life. And again, a reminder in the symbology here that even when the old cycle comes to a pass, even when we experience a major transition, life goes on. Now, I'm going to take these 5 cards and read them as if they came up in a 5-card reading. Death here represents the past. And I would say, looking at this card, the Death card says that the seeker has gone through a major transition, perhaps a major loss. Perhaps we're thinking in terms of a negative cycle, a negative chapter of his or her life that has been there in the past, but it's possible to move on from it. Then we take the next card, the Devil, and that represents the challenge. And here the Devil is saying, you've gone through tough times. You've gone through some tough transitions. Now find the strength, the toughness within yourself to make the way through. And actually, the Devil here is in a position where it represents past challenges. So here, this is something that's still in the past. So from this, we can see that the seeker has gone through a terrible, trying time. They've gone through a major transition. They've toughened themselves to get through that transition. So they've made it through just on toughness and just hardening themselves more or less to go through it and finding their strength within, even when, they had to become like a devil to live with to get through it. But they found that inner strength. Perhaps they've gone overboard on that inner strength, but they found it, and that toughness has carried them through. Now the Tower represents the present energy. And the present energy is, again, a major transition. Could be a job loss, could be something else, could even be like getting pregnant and the future birth of a baby. That's a major game changer in and of itself. But another major transition is coming up. So I would say, okay, look at your past. You've gone through major transitions before. You have found the toughness, the inner strength to go through it. This is going to be a little more of the same. It may seem scary, but hey, look at where you've been. You've gone through it before. You'll go through it again. You'll come through it. You'll survive it. And you may even thrive. Then we get to the Nine of Swords card, the 4th card. This represents future challenges. And here it is. I would actually take this card and turn it upside down to represent not fear, not worry, but conquering fear, conquering worry. Again, taking a good hard look at your life. You're going to go through a major transition. Is this something that you can do something about? Perhaps avoid? Because keep in mind, when we're doing tarot readings, we're not talking about something that's set in stone. We're talking about things that are changeable, that can be altered. I gave a reading for a lady on the phone just a couple nights ago, in which I gave her an outcome that she did not like. And she said a few choice words and hung up on me because she thought I was predicting something very bad for her. And actually, this was something that she could have done something about. And I can't give any more details than that. But had she chosen to take a good hard look at herself and her own attitudes and her own way of life and living and seeing things, she would have seen that the outcome was something that she could have affected. And we could have taken the rest of the time of that tarot reading exploring options, things that you can do to avoid this negative outcome, to speed things up or slow things down or just change direction entirely. And that's where, in this fourth card, the future challenge position, this is where we can begin to look at strengths that you can develop to get through this major tragedy or major transition, whatever it may be. Do you have the capacity for self-honesty? Can you take responsibility for changing the things in your life that need to change? Or are you just going to sit back and blame other people for it? And the Nine of Swords card in this position says, okay, it's time to take a good, honest look at your inner strength. And just like you've had the inner strength to get through your past transitions and past tragedies, you will find the inner strength to make it through this present disaster or calamity. You can gracefully, well, perhaps not gracefully, but you can make it through this tough time. Just do what you can. Don't worry, work. Don't worry about stuff that you can't change, and don't worry about stuff that you can change. Just change it. Action, not just the world of pure thought and pure worry. And then the final card, the final outcome, Ten of Swords. It's saying to us that past energy of negativity, of transition, of disaster, of destruction, it's over. It's over. Don't put too much mental stress, mental worry into it. Let it go. Move on. And I know that's much easier said than done. But that's the way we move on in life. We accept the negative that's happened to us. We put it in its proper place, in its proper perspective. We learn from it as much as we possibly can, and then we let it go. We don't constantly bring it back up in family meetings, in conversations with our loved ones, in our own personal dialogue or monologue that we carry on within our own brains. We don't constantly bring it back up and dredge it back up into the present. That's counterproductive much of the time. Instead, we learn what lessons we can from it, and then we let these past things go. We let the past remain in the past, and we can march ahead into, hopefully, a much brighter future. So, even if you have a tarot reading, and you have what I would call the worst possible spread, a 5-card spread with the scariest 5 cards of the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, it doesn't necessarily have to be a purely negative reading. Like, oh my God, stay in bed, drink poison, end it all right now because, yeah, it's over. No, there's actually a good life lesson right here. That you've gone through hard times. You are going through hard times. You've made it in the past. You will make it in the future. You will make it through. And this present cycle of negativity will not go on forever unless you want it to. If you hang on to it, if you are attached to your past negativity, then it will go on forever because you're working to keep it going, either consciously or subconsciously. For most people, that's a subconscious decision. But if you're willing to let it go and move on to something better, then something better is there and can be realized. Okay, I'm going to quit this. I've gone through all 5 cards. We've done our reading. I'd also like to remind the listener that if you desire a tarot reading in either Spanish or English, we can help you out. I'm Frater Ralph. I have a website called Tarot by Ralph, and I do readings in English. And to book a reading with me, you can visit my webpage at www.tarotbyralph.com. And there, just pick out the option that works for you and go with it, and we'd be happy. I'd be happy to talk with you. Once I clear my throat here. Now, if you desire a tarot reading in Spanish, my wife, Heidi, does Spanish language readings. And she has her website, of course. And that can be found at www.reverendheidi.com. And the name of the site is Tarot by Reverend Heidi. And if you go to that website, you can book your option. She does 20-minute, 40-minute, and 60-minute readings. Pay for the block of time that is workable for you. And we'll be in touch with you. So those 2 options there, Tarot by Ralph and Tarot by Reverend Heidi, are available. And we are expanding our services, kind of changing some things to add more options to the seeker. And we will be announcing those as they come into fruition. So until later, until we meet again around the universe, this is Frater Ralph of Tarot by Ralph signing off. And I'm going to leave you with a song by Mark Cook called Blue Voodoo. And thank you for tuning in. Blessings.